everybody. Welcome to Life Stories. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm glad you're here. So, every week, I have the privilege of speaking with people all over the United States. Actually, tomorrow, I'll be speaking with someone in a different country. But I have such a privilege of talking to people who are doing amazing things to help others. Today on the podcast, I speak with Samantha from JK Community Farm in Virginia. They have a 150-acre farm and they grow food all year long just to feed people who are food insecure. They do this just to provide for food pantries and people in their area that need help. And today's word of the week
It's the word of the week.
is generosity. You know, it's one thing, as she says, someone suggested that they do. Why don't you just go buy food and give it to people that need food? But it's another thing completely to go to the work of planting good, healthy food to provide for people because you don't want them just fed, you want them fed well. And one of the things we talked about was how important it is for people who can't afford good, healthy food, which unfortunately is expensive, to be able to have access to it. And I just think it's a beautiful thing that they're doing. My goal is to one day get up there and see that farm and walk around and just experience it for myself. So thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a wonderful day. Hi,
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Great, thank you.
Thanks for chatting with me today.
Of course, more than happy to. Thank you for everything you're doing for your podcast. It's really great for nonprofits that you're able to share their mission further than they would be otherwise.
It has been so awesome to be able to meet all the people that I've met so far, and I'm trying to make my way through the United States. So I'm reaching out to somebody in every state. What I'm looking for is kind of like what you're doing. You know, I appreciate, I've said this before on here, I appreciate Salvation Army. I appreciate the ones that are everywhere, you know, that everybody knows. But what I'm looking for is unique nonprofits, things that people are doing that they're not doing other places, you know.
Yeah.
And I've learned the most incredible things from people. So I love what y'all are doing on this farm. And I've said it, and I think it's heartbreaking that, you know, people are staying unhealthy and overweight because food is expensive and cheap food is bad for you. And so
Yeah.
it's just this cycle, you know, people can't get help. People that can't afford good food or healthy food, a lot of times they stay sick and they stay overweight, unfortunately. And so I love what you're doing, that y'all are specifically doing this for people who have food insecurity, who you want them to eat healthy, which, you know, that's a lot of work just just to feed people like that. But I would love for you to tell me how the farm got started and what you do with it. Are you one of the ones that created the farm or
I was. So we started in 2018.
okay.
I went to college at University of Tennessee in Knoxville. And while I was there, I had a professor that told me, for everyone in the class, like, don't come to this class, go do something that makes a difference, go figure out what you want to do with your life. Like, here's a list of organizations that I'd like you to go to instead of coming to class. And so
Wow.
I went to a community farm that was in Knoxville, and they did like rehabilitation of prisoners, and the food that they grew went back into the prison system. Some went to food pantries, and then some they sold it at farmers markets.
Yeah.
Um, but I loved the model, and I loved being there and the environment and just everything that they were doing. And I was on a pre-med path, so it wasn't like I was studying agriculture. I had any
Right.
like plan on doing this. But once I graduated, I moved back home to Virginia, and I was working in a stem cell research lab. So I had like no windows, and I just kept thinking of that farm and like how much I loved it and like how they were making a difference. And my parents do a lot of conservation easement in our area, so just protecting the land, helping it from being developed, because there's just so much development everywhere where we are.
Yeah.
And so they had land that is now the community farm. I asked if we could use it for this project, and at first they were very unsure. I think that when you tell your parents like every day since you were like 7, like this is what I want to do, and then you spring it on them like actually this is what I want to do. They're like, okay, wait. But they obviously eventually got totally on board. They donated the land to us, so we have a $1 a year lease, and my
Wow,
dad's company helps send out volunteers and sponsors events. So
wow,
they've been a great help to get us started.
that's awesome. Now, how big did you start with 150 acres, or did you start small and then grew from
So the
there?
farm was 150 acres always, but we started growing on 5.
Okay.
And so off the 5 acres, and then I can't remember our first year, I want to say that we had 20 cattle. So we have a protein program as well, and we donate grass-fed beef. So we started donating 50,000 pounds in our first year, and then just grew incrementally since then. So this year we donated 245,000 pounds.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
well, it
That's a
sounds
lot.
like a lot, and it is a lot, but not when you look at how many people are food insecure
Right.
in our area. Um, right now, through our food pantry partners, 150,000 people have access to our food.
Wow.
Um, so that makes what we grow sound really small. So we have a lot of work to
Yeah.
still do. Um, there's just so many people who need it.
Yeah.
Uh,
I was interested to see that it says you only have a staff of 3 and then it's all volunteers that help. How many volunteers do you have working?
yeah, this season we hosted a little over 5,700. Um, so our staffed team is quite small. It was just Mike and I. Mike is our farm manager. He knows everything about agriculture.
Mhm.
And he has been there since the beginning. He's wonderful. It was just us until this year, and then I have a new baby, so we needed some more help out on the field. And so we have Charlotte as our new team manager or team member, and she is just the best. So we
Uh,
love our staff, but we get so many wonderful volunteers that we've been able to stay pretty small.
yeah.
And it's wonderful. We get volunteers from all over the region, lots of companies, probably 70% corporate team building events.
Mhm.
And then a lot of community members. This year we had a team from Ireland come. We get teams from all over the place. So it's
That's
really fun.
amazing. Well, I was asking my husband, we have a very small garden. I mean, it's minuscule compared to what you have. I think he said it's 40 by 40, which for
Yeah.
us is big. I mean, that's a lot. It's a lot of work. We have that and then some raised beds. And he and we live on family land. And so he and my father-in-law do a lot. Well, they do all of the gardening, but I do
Uh-huh.
all the canning and, cooking and all that stuff, and I'm exhausted. And so I just can't imagine. I mean, I know there's lots of people, but 150 acres is a lot.
The people that come out to help us, it makes all the difference in the world. I
Oh,
can't imagine.
yes.
There's seasons where like Mike and I will look at each other and we're like, did you plant anything this year? And he'll be like, no. So like we don't get to do a lot like
Yeah.
of hands-on planting or harvesting because we have so many wonderful volunteers there to help. And it's just amazing to see like all of these people spending their free time making sure that the communities in need have healthy food. And it's
Absolutely.
so amazing. Yeah.
There's probably too many things to list, but what all do you grow?
So this year, I think that we are up to 58 varieties.
Wow.
But the way that we determine what we grow is by our food pantry. So we offer a survey around this time of year, so around Thanksgiving each year. And that's when the most families are accessing the food pantries. So we ask them what they would like to see, what their diets look like now. We get a gauge of the chronic diseases they may be facing,
Yeah.
the ages of their kids, and all of that kind of has an impact on what varieties we grow.
Yeah.
In our first year, we were growing what we like to grow as white Americans, and there's so many different cultures that the food pantry serve. So we were going about it all wrong. So it was really nice to see the results of the survey to see what people actually wanted, because they're the people that we're growing it for. We want it to be exactly what they want.
Right.
So it's been really eye-opening, and and nice to grow varieties that we've never seen or eaten before. So it
Yeah.
was amazing.
I was just curious because we kind of do the same things every year, tomatoes, and we did new potatoes this year. We did, of course, squash and a zucchini and okra. And, we kind of do the same thing. So I just wondered how different it was where you are,
Yeah,
like
so a
what you
lot
grow.
of, the basics, but also a lot of spicy peppers. That's our number one
Mhm.
requested item. So jalapenos and poblanos. Sunchokes are like Jerusalem artichokes. Yeah,
Oh,
a lot of
okay.
people haven't seen
Never
them.
heard
They
of that. Yeah.
look like ginger rather than
Oh,
like the traditional
wow.
artichoke that you're used to seeing, like a
Yeah.
globe. Um, and then we focused a lot on season extension. So like at this time of year, we're growing a lot of root crops, carrots, radishes, turnips, a ton of sweet potatoes. But we try to really focus on varieties that will provide a lot of nutrient density, because we know that the families that we're serving don't have a lot of produce that they have access to. So we want to pack a big punch in what we're
Right.
able to provide them.
Do y'all have to stop in the winter? Do you have a greenhouse that you're able to grow things in, or do y'all just put it on hold?
Yeah. We
during-
have two high tunnels which allow for season extension, so we can grow greens in there through
Okay.
the winter. We'll get a few cuttings. It's definitely not enough to meet the need, but we also have raised beds that we can grow in, and then a few cold tolerant crops in the field that we can overwinter, but we won't see yields from those until probably March.
Yeah. And you said that I know it's going to food pantries. Is that the only places that it goes to are food pantries or
Yeah, we donate
yeah?
100% of what we grow, which
Oh,
there's not very many organizations like us.
yeah.
And it's hard because we have to fundraise our full budget each season.
Yeah.
Um, but I just can't imagine selling any of this food that I know could feed people
Right.
that don't have it. So
Right.
it's worth it for sure.
That's amazing. What does your fundraising look like? How do y'all have an annual fundraiser, or do you have people that
We
donate
have
regularly or
a plantathon in
oh
May
wow.
each. It's really fun. So we get the
Neat.
majority of our plants in the ground in 3 days. Um, and it's like 300,000 plants in the ground. And it's a lot of fun though. We have groups come all throughout the weekend. It's exhausting for our staff, but really fun for the community. And we have people sponsor that. We have an annual intern day event, which allows companies to send their interns out to the farm, and we'll get sponsors for that event as well. But that's nice because companies can show the students interning for them how they give back in the community, and then it
Right.
also helps us a lot as well. But our primary fundraising is corporate partnerships,
Okay.
and we've been very fortunate to have so many wonderful companies join us.
That's wonderful. Do your volunteers, are they kind of primarily the same people that come all the time, or do you have new
So
people showing up?
yeah, because we host so many corporate team building events, we don't have like a lot of the same people returning every day. Like this season, we hosted about 61 different companies,
Wow.
and we've never had a company since year one not return the next year. So I just hope to, eventually have thousands of companies joining us, and then we can grow
Sure.
so much food. Um, but because of that, we don't see a lot of repeats.
Right.
Probably most people are out, 3 times a season.
Oh, okay. Have you
Yeah.
heard back from any, like, I don't know if the people that are getting the food from food banks know, I mean, maybe they do know y'all are the ones that grow. And have you heard back from any of the people that are
We'll
receiving the food?
hear some stories, not a lot, because of course we want it to all be anonymous for the families. We don't
Right.
want it can be, and that's just the way, I don't know, society has made people feel, is that they have to be ashamed that they're receiving
Right.
this food. So we don't get a ton of feedback. We get it from the food pantries. They'll have people who are taking the food and saying, we've had access to all of this produce recently, and I don't have to take medication for my diabetes anymore, and things like that. So hearing things like that is just so heartwarming, and we're so happy that it's making a difference. Or like my kid has always been asking for, salads, and I've never been able to provide them, but now I can. So we love to hear stories like that, but we don't get to hear much
Yeah.
often, which is perfectly fine.
Right, right. Now I just wondered if you did. Can anybody volunteer? Can they just sign up to volunteer? Anybody can.
Yeah, any
Just
age. Our
it,
oldest volunteer was 99, and she was awesome. Yeah.
wow, that is amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I love that.
Yeah,
My my husband works in healthcare. He's a physical therapist, and he had a patient one time who was in her late 90s, and she was coming for PT because she was so sore from gardening. And I was like, I want to be like that. I want to be that old,
exactly. I
and I won't
know.
have to go to PT because I'm, in my garden. Oh my goodness, that is beautiful. What's your favorite thing about what you're getting to do right now with the farm?
Well,
Well,
that's
you
hard.
started it, so I mean, all
Yeah,
of it
I love
probably you love.
everything.
Yes.
Um, I really love seeing our younger students get introduced to foods that they wouldn't try at home, because that's kind of setting them up for a lifetime of enjoying healthy foods.
Yeah.
Um, so if at home parents can only get them to eat, snacks and junk foods, but when they come out to the farm and they get to pick it themselves and they just take a bite out of like a radish, something that a little
Right.
kid would never want to try, and then because they picked it themselves, they love it. So I love seeing that excitement from them and knowing that, you're kind of putting them on the right trajectory for.
Sure. That's amazing. Where are y'all in Virginia?
So we are about 50 minutes outside of DC.
Okay.
And so our county is Loudoun, and it's a really great place to be because we have a ton of land. There's a lot of farms around us, but we're also really close to like all of the companies that can come volunteer at the farm, and all of the communities that need more fresh food. So
Okay.
yeah.
That's great. Is there anything else that you would love for people to know about what you're doing? Like I said in the beginning, I am thankful. I'm just in the position where we can afford healthy, good food, and not everybody can do that. And
Yeah.
it stinks that people can't, and it stinks that it's just this cycle of staying unhealthy and getting sick because what they can afford is bad for you. It's not just not good, it's bad. And
Yeah,
so I
and a lot
hate
of
that.
people don't see that. Like you see the cycle, but a lot of
Right.
people just don't understand it. So
Uh,
we've been asked endless times, like, why are you doing that? Why don't you just like buy the food from the store and give it to the pantries? Like, why are you growing it? They're like, well, it's completely different having local
right.
food. You can grow so much more nutrient density. It's not being shipped across the US or
Yeah.
from like Italy or Mexico or wherever.
Right.
Um, and it's so expensive at the grocery store.
Yes.
We're able to grow all of our produce, like when you average out our budget, even with paying our staff and everything else, we average $1.25 per pound. And that's for everything. So it's such a low
Wow.
cost for
Yes,
what
it
we're able to
is.
donate.
Yeah.
Um, and so we can grow so much more for the food pantries because we can keep the cost so low. And a lot of that is because of the volunteers that we get at the farm.
So do you
Um,
have, are they out there every day of the week or?
we do Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just can't imagine. I would love to see that in person because
Oh, please come.
it's
Yeah.
just so hard. It blows my mind. I think about how much work we did on our little garden. It just blows my mind to think about all of that.
It's so different with all of the people that come and
Yes.
help us. And
Yes.
it's incredible.
Yeah.
But our model is able to be duplicated. That's our dream, is for, every region to have a farm like ours so that the food
Yeah.
pantries do have enough healthy food.
Yeah.
Um, there's really like no cap on the need. We could grow
Right.
so
Oh,
much food.
absolutely. And I've
Um,
said this numerous times from different people because I am finding unique nonprofits and people that are doing things they're not doing everywhere else that I wish people would get ideas from these nonprofits and say, hey, I can do that here,
yeah,
So I would
exactly. And
love
it's
that if
so
people,
easy. So we
Yes.
just we
Yeah.
have a whole SOP. So if anybody just wants to take it and run with it, we would absolutely love it.
But I love what you're doing. I really do. And I'm so thankful I got to learn a little bit more about it. And I hope people will get ideas and, start doing something. And your website is great. You have so much
Oh,
information on your website, all the pictures and I mean, lots of
thank you.
information to read about it. So thank
Thank
you
you
for
so
doing
much.
what you're doing. And thank you for
Of
talking
course.
to me today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate everything you're
Absolutely.
doing.
Well, thank you. I hope you have a great afternoon.
Thank you. You as
Okay.
well.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye.